I left my job at the UN 6 months ago for a pause that was long overdue. And now I'm establishing new patterns, finding new rhythms, both physically and mentally and emotionally too. If you watched my last video, then you know that one of the biggest reasons for why I decided to leave my job was because I needed to in order for us to obtain a different visa that would allow us to establish more long-term roots here in Switzerland. But if I'm being completely honest, it wasn't just about the permit. It was also that I was feeling burnt out and tired, and I was juggling so many things, and it really just felt like I needed to take a break. At the time, I was working for the UN, which honestly was my dream job. I was in a senior leadership role. I had a lot of responsibilities. I was managing a big team. I was working for an organization that I really cared about the mission, but for some reason, something just didn't feel right. I had all the pieces that on the surface seemed amazing. This high position job at a very prestigious organization, living in Geneva, Switzerland. What else more could a person ask for? But inside I was just feeling trapped, and I was feeling like something was not right. Something was not working in our life. We have 3 kids, and my husband is an entrepreneur. He has his own business, and it felt like our life, it was a game of Jenga. Everything was very neatly and precisely stacked, but if one of our kids got sick, or it was a school holiday, or we unexpectedly had a big meeting that required me to travel, any of the things that can just happen in life, it just suddenly felt like everything would fall apart. We would have to move mountains in order for our daily life to just work. It was such a struggle, and I felt like I was constantly negotiating my time. So while I had this amazing position at this amazing organization, I wasn't enjoying myself. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And because of all of the responsibilities that I had at home and all of the responsibilities that I also had in the role, I tried to just create boundaries to help myself function. So I would make a rule that on Wednesdays when my kids were home in the mornings, I wouldn't do meetings. And then I would make another rule that if I had to do pickup, then after 4 p.m. I would not do meetings. I didn't really want to travel unless I had at least 2 weeks notice of a trip. And I also tried really hard not to work late on Fridays so that I could be available for our kids for the start of their weekend. And in the beginning, it felt like, okay, this is something that I need to do in order to both be a present parent and somebody that works full-time. But in the end, I think that trying to compromise both of these things just led me to do my 2 roles even more poorly. In my job, I was making my universe smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where it honestly didn't even make sense for me to be in that role anymore because of all of the restrictions that I had set up for myself. And at home, even though I was trying to safeguard all of this time, when I was using that time to spend with our kids and to spend with our family, I didn't feel present because I was just thinking about the thing that I should have been doing or the email that I would need to send afterwards in order to make up for the fact that I wasn't doing the thing that I was asked to do in that moment. It went on like this for a long time. In the last position that I held, it was like a buildup, like a pimple being popped of all of the stress and all of the feelings of wanting something different and wanting something more flexible and wanting to be able to fit a professional world into my personal world in a way that was more sustainable for myself and where I could feel like I was showing up more presently in both of the spaces that I was in. And I think in that last role that I had, everything just kind of came to a head. And then in addition to the fact that I had to give up my position in order for us to apply for the visa, suddenly it just became super clear that I needed to make a change. I needed to leave this position and I needed to take a little bit of time off to figure out what I was going to do next. This was the first time that I've done something like this. I've never had a career break in my life. I've been working for 15 years, and I mean, ever since I was little, I just remember wanting to work. I remember being 15 and wanting to make my own money, to be able to spend it how I wanted, and I dreamed of having a job like the one that I had that was in this highly regarded organization where I was a leader, where people looked up to me, and I felt terrified to give up everything that I had worked so hard for. I would often look at my LinkedIn profile and marvel at the journey that my career had taken. I was really proud of the fact that I started out where I did and then worked my way up to the roles that I was in. And it felt really, really counterintuitive to just walk away from all of that with no plan and no idea what I was going to do next. After I left my job, my immediate thought was, everything's going to be better. I'm going to get this time back. That's what I was in shortage of, was time. And I'm going to be able to be the best mom. I'm going to be able to be so present. I'm going to be able to do all the things that I wish that I could do while I was working. And it wasn't really like that. I'm going to tell you a story because during the summer, I had my kids, all three of them, full-time. And one day, I had this idea that I wanted to take them to the botanical gardens. So I packed up a lunch for us in the morning. I got everybody in the car. We were on our way to go. And then I got to the place and I realized that I didn't bring a stroller and that the nearest parking lot was a 15-minute walk away. And for a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 6-year-old, that walk was just not going to be able to happen without a stroller. So I ended up turning the car around. We went to this other park that was closer to where we were living. And while we were at that park, my youngest one had this huge poopy diaper. I didn't bring extra diapers with us. She was covered in poop. And I luckily had a packet of wipes with 3 wipes in them. I wiped her as best I could. She was naked and I grabbed her, and the 4 of us went back to the car and we headed home as quickly as we could, and we all took a bath together. And this day just perfectly encapsulates the sort of like reality check that I was in for trading in my job, my 9-to-5, for being a full-time parent. I envisioned that we would be sitting on picnic blankets, that I was going to have all this time to prepare all these amazing foods and amazing things for us to do. And the reality of it was that it was so messy. It was even harder probably than working the job that I had before. In fact, I had less time being with my kids all summer than I did when I was working and trying to care for my kids at the same time. And it just made me realize that I was missing the joy in it. I wanted to have all this time back, and I had it. But in the moment and in the time that I had, I couldn't find the joy. I couldn't find the peace. There was still so much like anguish and angst and stress, and I didn't understand how that could be possible because I thought I had left the thing in my life that was causing me the most stress. But in the end, I realized that it wasn't about actually my job. It was really about me and the changes that I needed to make internally, and also just the time that it's going to take to readjust to a new reality and to sit with that and to accept that, and then to be able to react and to decide how you're going to move forward. I spent a lot of time this summer, in the fall, after my kids went back to school, kind of thinking about what I wanted my life to be like. And I did this exercise by Debbie Millman called the 10 Years to a Remarkable Life. You basically write a day in your life, a perfect day, what that looks like 10 years from now. And you kind of start to evaluate the choices that you are making today against that perfect vision. So in that vision, I had always imagined a life with more flexibility. I never really saw myself actually working in a job that required me to be in the office certain days, that I couldn't take weeks off at a time or months off at a time when it made sense for us and when it made sense for our family. In a way, I was self-sabotaging myself by always being in these corporate roles that were never going to give me that type of flexibility. And it made me realize that, as scary as it was to walk away from my job, that it was the right decision for me. I've done a lot of thinking about what work means to me. After I left my position, I did feel a little bit of an identity shift. I didn't really know what to say to people when I would meet them for the first time and they would ask me what I do. Working was really about something more than just hours. It was about something more than just how you were spending your time. I recognized that what I was losing after I left my job was not work or a sense of worth tied to my work, but more that I was losing mastery over something. I was losing feeling of that I was good at something and that I was exercising my skills in the pursuit of becoming better, or using those skills that I've mastered to accomplish something. That's when I decided I was going to start this YouTube channel. Being new at something and being bad at it is one of the hardest things to do in life, especially when you're 38 and you've had a career doing something where you've reached sort of like the highest levels of where that career could take you. It's forced me to really challenge patterns that I have within myself, thought processes and ideas about myself. Everyone is creative. I knew that in principle and I knew that in theory, but I never really thought of myself as someone who was super creative. Being here in this moment in time, taking this time away from my corporate job has really allowed me the space to explore some of my creative intuitions and some of my creative impulses. And I've been looking for the small moments in my day where I can do something that has nothing attached to it, no outputs attached to it, no goals, no judgments, like sitting with my kids and drawing animals. It's been really important as a part of this process of unwinding from constantly subjecting yourself to goals and judgments and feedback and the noise of what everyone around you thinks about you and your performance and how that stacks up against other people in these environments that we work in. I know that I have a long way to go, and there's a lot that's coming ahead for me in my journey. I remember when I was working in my 9-to-5 jobs, and we'd think about what we were gonna do for the holidays coming up, and it would feel like everything in our life was gonna be the same in the next 3 months. So it was easy for us to look ahead and decide, okay, well, we'll wanna do this or we'll wanna do that. And now for the first time in probably a decade, I really have no idea what is going to happen or how our life is going to change month to month or week to week. I think about December and the holidays and yeah, sure, we're going to be living here and my kids are going to be going to school. All of that's going to be stable, but the possibilities of what could happen with this channel, what things am I going to try in that time? What am I going to encounter that might inspire me to try something or do something? All of those possibilities just seem so open and they seem so endless. It really gives me a sense of presence to know that the moment that I'm in right now is the moment that I'm in a week, in a month, in 3 months. That moment will have passed and it'll be a new moment and I'm going to feel a totally different way. That has been helpful to get me through the very challenging times in this journey where sometimes it feels like we've traded in all this stability for total chaos. and unpredictability. Even in the moments where things are going really well and everything seems like it's really humming, it also makes you feel like everything builds upon itself. Everything is momentum. Everything is inertia. And when things are working, it's like a moment to celebrate. It's a reflection that the hard times have led to something really positive. All of that positivity and all of those results are because of your own work and your own inputs into it. I'm looking forward to what the year has in store, and I'm like bought into seeing what could unfold. And I hope you'll join me on more of that journey.